Well, if you didn't know, now you know. After yesterday, there's no such thing as a normal Saturday in college basketball. We saw massive wins, massive upsets that are sure to shake up the new AP Top 25 poll that is set to be released tomorrow. So where will the #1 team in Auburn fall to after they lost to Florida, and how far up will the Gators rise? And after snapping a 15-game winning streak, where does Duke land? We will find out soon enough. Let's go ahead and talk about it as we welcome in our own Kyle Boone to preview what the new AP Top 25 poll will look like come Monday. Kyle, it's so great to see you. I do want to begin with #1 Auburn losing to #6 Florida. How far, in your opinion, do you see the Tigers dropping, and how far up will Florida move?
Yeah, I do a weekly tomorrow's top 25 today, projecting what AP voters will react to based off the week's results. And based off what we've seen so far from Auburn this season, I actually think Auburn will remain at #1 in the AP Top 25 poll. There is some recent precedent that has happened in recent years. In 2022, Gonzaga was 24-2, unanimous #1. They actually lost on a Saturday, continued to remain atop the AP poll in the next rankings. 2023, Purdue was 22-1. They were the unanimous #1. They lost on a Sunday, and they retained their spot at #1 in the AP Top 25 poll. You know, Auburn has been #1 for 4 consecutive weeks in the AP Top 25 poll. They lead college basketball with 12 Quadrant 1 wins. They're #1 in the net rankings. They're #1 in wins above bubble. They've been the unanimous #1 for 3 consecutive weeks. And I get it. You lose to an SEC rival in Florida. I think most people would expect some reaction at the top of the poll. However, I think what Auburn has done throughout this season, I would expect that they will remain at #1 when it updates on Monday.
Okay, very interesting to hear. You know, the results from yesterday are setting up for a very interesting matchup come Saturday, with Alabama winning and Auburn losing. Depending on obviously what happens with the latest poll that's released tomorrow, we could have a #1 and #2 in the Iron Bowl on the court, of course, next week. Who do you give the early edge to as we look to that matchup next Saturday, and what are the keys to victories for both teams?
Yeah, I do think it will end up being #1 versus #2. I think Alabama will end up getting some first place votes on Monday, and they'll split it with Auburn. I would give the head-to-head matchup nod to Auburn. You know, they've been, consistently the best team in college basketball throughout this season. They rate #1 in a number of metrics. Janai Broome has been fantastic, one of the best players in college basketball this season. You know, I think they will come out looking to prove something, because, they are not undefeated in SEC play any longer. This game coming up this weekend will have significant SEC conference regular season title implications, and it'll be a chance for Auburn to really send a message to the rest of college basketball that, yeah, look, Florida got us. They got us good, but we're still the king in college basketball until proven otherwise. I really believe that, and so I think they'll bounce back, and it'd be a huge win going against a rival in Alabama.
We'll look to see if that does happen, but for Alabama, what is it really going to take if they want to dethrone what you believe to be the #1 team in the nation come tomorrow again?
Yeah, it's going to come down to its offense, and that is kind of how Alabama's bread has been buttered throughout the tenure of Nate Oates and what they've done, building one of the best offenses in college basketball year in and year out. They play with pace, they play with tempo, they shoot a ton of threes. They're very good at being efficient, prioritizing three-pointers, prioritizing layups. I think we will consistently expect that from Alabama so long as Nate Oates is there. The defense, I think, is going to be the big question. Can they hold down Janai Broome? Can they hold back Chad Baker-Mazara and that Auburn offense that has been so explosive throughout this season? I think that will be the key in this matchup. Obviously, I think this will end up being a shootout, just the way that Alabama and the way that Auburn plays. It's going to come down to Alabama. If it's going to win defensively, it's going to have to limit Janai Broome, kind of cut the head off the snake of that Auburn Tigers team.
We're all counting down the hours and minutes to Super Bowl, obviously, tonight. But also, we have to throw in there, we're counting down the hours and minutes until that game on Saturday, February 15th, between Auburn and Alabama. The Iron Bowl on the court. It's going to be a good one. Tip-off is slated for 4 p.m. I do want to get to Duke here, because what kind of impact do you think Duke's loss to unranked Clemson will have on the Blue Devils come tomorrow?
Yeah, I've got them sliding to number 3.
Okay.
I would expect it will have some impact. I think Alabama will end up leapfrogging past Duke. The resume is so good that, they entered the weekend having won 16 consecutive games. So this is not like a trend where Duke is suddenly trending downward. They've lost a step. This is a spot where Clemson is a really good basketball team. In fact, I would have them ranked in the top 25 poll. And going on the road and losing a close game, I don't think AP voters will end up reacting too strongly to that. Duke consistently has been one of the best defensive teams in college basketball this season. They lost at Clemson, but before this had been one of the hottest teams in the sport. So I think they'll slip just a little bit, but will remain in the top 20 or top 5 when the AP poll again updates on Monday.
All right, we'll look forward to that. Kyle Boone, we typically end with your pick as the new number 1. Will be released tomorrow for the men's AP top 25 poll, but you kind of gave us a teaser. You believe it's going to be Auburn yet again, despite their big loss.
I do, yeah. I think it will be Auburn despite the loss. They've been the unanimous number 1 for 3 consecutive weeks. I think they will lose their unanimous status as the unanimous number 1 team. They received 62 first-place votes in 3 consecutive weeks. I think they'll split that with rival Alabama. Alabama will siphon off some first-place votes, but Auburn will again remain number 1 when it updates on Monday.
All right, as you take a look at Kyle Boone's projected top 10 teams and men's college basketball, as he joins us live here on CBS Sports HQ to break down this wild weekend in the NCAA. You can get more college basketball talk on the Ion College Basketball Podcast. All you got to do is scan that QR code on your screen and watch and listen wherever you get your podcasts.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you.
Big news coming out of the NFL. A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
With highlights.
What a finish at the final round of play.
And in-depth analysis.
Can they three-peat? Tony Romo joins the conversation.
What can you say about this game?
When you need your sports in a snap,
we're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
Find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.